The diaspora helped to build the middle class of the Caribbean through their remittances. They elevated the standard of living, improved the housing stock, gave hope to families that there was a way out. The diaspora has always been divided into go away to come back soon, go away to come back later, and go away and never come back. According to a report of the Inter-American Development Bank, remittances received by Latin American and Caribbean countries are projected to reach a record $155 billion in 2023, if this trend keeps on going. This is an increase of 9.5% compared to the $1.42 billion received in 2022, completing 15 consecutive years of growth, 15 years where the diaspora has been a major part of the economies of our small places. Remittances are an important source of income for many families in the region. They help to reduce poverty, improve access to education and healthcare, and promote economic growth. As the diaspora ages and starts fondly looking homeward, many Caribbean islands have instituted a number of returning national projects, which makes it easy for them to come home and to live in the houses that their money has built. So many returning nationals have access to duty-free cars, concessions, tax-free, and they have a fast track to resettlement. All within an aim to first welcome back home our family and to ensure, and secondly, to ensure that their pensions, which would have been paid in the UK, Canada, or the United States, are now paid in Barbados as an almost monthly FDI boost to our reserves, foreign direct investment boost. The diaspora also brings with it, and at times resented and unwelcomed. So the phenomena is that when people come back from the diaspora, they always say, well, in America, we do it this way, or in Canada, we do it this way, or in England, we do it this way. And it irritates the locals who never left. But the locals who never left have a way of saying, oh, they always went away and they know so much, they know too much. So it's this dynamic pull of people wanting to share, but people not wanting to hear, people wanting to tell, and people not wanting to share. So oftentimes, unwelcomed expertise from overseas. So the diaspora brings that expertise. It allows Caribbean people to tap into the connections made by our diaspora into the metropoles. Advances in nearly every societal aspect have been promoted, encouraged, and facilitated by the diaspora and their remittances. And the effect of their labor has helped to build our economies and societies. Like our relationship with Africa, this has not been tapped into fully, or even partially. We are still trying to work out more and more meaningful ways and better ways to facilitate the remittance economy. This is an allegory for a global African to the African relationship. We know there is value, but how, what, and when we start to leverage it are still amorphous concepts. Let us hope that this conference can make strong suggestions and, more importantly, implement tangible pathways for our progress. Thank you. That's my talk, briefly. But what I wanted to say is that I do have to run because we start a bit late. And I try to condense my thoughts into fewer spaces. There's lots more that we can talk about, and I think that there's a lot of space for us to actually do that. I commend the team for pulling this together, and I think it's an important one because the more that we recognize that there is probably much more value outside that belongs to us than inside that we can't own, I think that we're on our way to becoming better and better. The Global South, of which we're all a part of, has a lot to add to the world. But in our opinion, the Global South has to add value to itself first. So rather than trying to be all things to the world, let's try to make ourselves better so that we can attract what we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those good remarks. We really do appreciate, and I know you're in a tearing rush to leave. Well, I've been happy to just have you for the entire session in the afternoon, but we do respect that as well. And thank you also for just availing yourself this afternoon, despite the fact that you have a very tight schedule. We really do want to appreciate you again. Right, just put your hands again together again and give it a round of applause. Give him a round of applause for the good remarks we've had this afternoon. And before Your Excellency, I would just want also to just give a handy opportunity to the Chair, Diaspora Alliance, Kenya Diaspora Alliance, Dr. Shemo Chodho. He's got just a few remarks for you.
Excellency, High Commissioner Alexander MacDonald. Colleagues, for those of you who may not know, I call him my brother from the other mother. When he hosted us at his offices, he was telling us how when you go to Barbados, you see an Otieno, you see a Kamau, you see our Fola. They look exactly the same and behave the same. And of course, he reminded us Kenya is the home of all humanity, proconsul. Whether Indian or American, you are Kenyan, because originally all mankind came from here. Until one day that's proven wrong, we are all Kenyan. So we're so grateful. What some of you may not know, the great lady, some of us are hoping soon becomes the Secretary General of the UN. You remember the Prime Minister I'm talking about of Barbados? Give her a round of applause. Excellency, she makes us feel very proud. I know it's unfortunate we could not have the most of you, but the little you are able to package, we don't take it for granted. I know we will be talking about when we're in Abuja, Nigeria in April for the Global Africa Diaspora Symposium, and the President of Africa Diaspora Alliance is here. Dr. Malcolm, just wave, give him a round of applause. Dr. Malcolm Beach just landed from Washington, D.C. He's our president, I'm co-president. We had the Jamaican International Trade Minister, and the resolution was that we do that every 2 years, 2025. We are meant to be there in the Caribbean. So we will be talking to Your Excellency so that we are guided where we are going to meet. But let's give Excellency another round of applause as I hand back over to the bar. Thank you.
Thank you, Shem. I would like to call upon Sylvia Wambui from Nepal as well to just give us some brief remarks as well. Kindly put your hands together and make me welcome Sylvia Wambui.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, then thank you very much, Dr. Shem and the entire team. Asante sana, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you for an amazing summit and of course, to bring everybody together from Diaspora. So, as introduced, my name is Wambui Kahara, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lapal Investors Africa. So what we do is that we work with investors, international investors, and we bring international investors to Africa, more specifically in Kenya. So one of our partners is seated here, Samuel. I can see Mburu seated there as well. So, karibu sana. So, I just wanted to, give you a little bit of more information about what we're doing and how we can collaborate with this platform. So what we do is that we provide a market analysis, for example, about Kenya. We provide information about where the opportunities are, where the investment opportunities are. We provide the data, and we provide a soft landing for investors and companies that want to get into Kenya. So we also connect them with local partners, and also connect them with the allies, and we facilitate the whole process when it comes to permits, and we give a lot of advice when it comes to investments in Kenya. So another thing that we do is that we also work with entrepreneurs and companies here in Kenya. that want to be connected to financing and want to be connected to investors and want a global footprint. So we facilitate that and we link them up together as well. So for example, you in the diaspora, if you're looking for opportunities to invest here in Kenya, then we'll be able to give you the information that is required for you to invest here and connect you to the right people that are here. We also provide a platform just like what Dr. Shem is doing, where you can be able to share knowledge, you can be able to discuss opportunities, and you're able to collaborate also between local investors and international investors. Some of the opportunities and some of the challenges, I would start with the challenges that, and I think some were discussed this morning, is the issue of the government providing that safe and conducive environment for businesses to thrive here in Kenya. So the issues of taxes have been discussed a lot. The issues of partnerships has also been discussed a lot. So I think the platform that you're creating here to have the government on board to create and have that conversation is very important. The policies are also very important. Public-private partnerships is very important because this is the only way that we will move forward in terms of promoting economic growth in Kenya. I would also just like to finalize by saying I would want to invite you all. Next year as well, we will be having a summit, an investor summit, and we will be collaborating with Dr. Shem and this platform to be able to also discuss opportunities, investments opportunities in Kenya. So it's such a pleasure to be here and also to have partners from Belgium as well, and we're looking forward to a successful summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wambui. And that will act as a segue now to these particular sessions that we do have. But before we continue with the program, briefly, we had the president of Kenya Diaspora in Netherlands. Just, you can come and just give a few remarks. I know you joined us at the tail end of the program. Just like 2 minutes, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Ocheng. I'm the president, or as we prefer to call it, the chairperson of the Kenyan diaspora in the Netherlands. I think it's a very big honor and privilege to be addressing our fellow diasporians. And as Ambassador McDonald just said, I think in the current definition, we are being defined as diaspora who voluntarily left home and went to search for greener pastures. And as our PS was here, we are also asked to bring something back home. And I think the case of Kenya, or the diaspora, the Kenyan diaspora, and the one of Barbados can be compared differently. But I think Barbados, like Ambassador McDonald said, has been able to thrive in certain parts of which we, as the Kenyan diaspora, can also take as a template. It's only that Ambassador is almost leaving. I had some few questions for him. But I think as we proceed on with these sessions, we will be learning a lot more how to strengthen the Kenyan diaspora, how to be more stronger, how to speak with one voice. And thanks to our global chair, Dr. Shem Ochodo, who has been putting us together and has brought us all together. And now we are even considered as a county. And the Kenyan diaspora in the Netherlands is also part of KDA. And we're very much proud of it. And we would like to actually contribute to all the discussions that KDA is involving, because we believe that we as a diaspora out there need to be together to be able to help ourselves and also help Kenya. There is much being spoken about how we can remit more money to Kenya, how we can help our relatives back in Kenya. But one thing that I think is also not being spoken about is the well-being of the diasporians wherever we are. We are home away from home, But being away also sometimes, like the PS said, there are people who are struggling with their mental health. So I think that is also something that maybe after the end of this conference, we should really think very much serious about, because a lot of people are suffering in silence. When you live here, you go to be in the diaspora, people at home always think all is well. You send the money, if you don't send, then maybe something is wrong with you. Not knowing that you are trying so hard, the much that you can send so that they can utilize it properly, it might not also be utilized properly when you come back home. Like they told us, now we have a lot of good sponsors here who are giving us very much open ways of dealing with real estate, banking, so that you don't have to really deal with people who don't tell you the truth. So I think it's a very good forum. From the Netherlands, the Kenyans there also send their greetings very much together with you. There are those who are also following up this one online right now. And I wouldn't take much time of us because I know we started a little bit late. And Dr. Ari, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Right, I want us just to go to the session that we were meant to have. Because of time in the morning, we didn't have it. And I would like to just call upon also the panelists to come forward. But before we do that, could we just stand up a bit? We remember our finger in the morning just to wake you up a bit so that we can actually make sure the moderator and the panelists will have a good audience that are alert. I said in the morning that Chuck Swindoll said, wherever you are, be there. Wherever you are, wherever you are. Turn to your neighbor, tell them, wherever you are, be there. Wherever you are, be there. So all of us stand up. So you remember our finger, yes? And in the spirit of Housing Kenya, with the affordable housing, of course, project of Kenya Kwanza, you want to house your neighbor's finger. Raise your index finger. Raise your index finger. Right? So you know the drill. For the sake of the guests who aren't here, so this is what we do. I don't know, my son interpreter, she's a bit busy. So what you're supposed to do is, if you've got your finger raised, the index finger, you can house your neighbor's fingers like that. It's just a drill that we want to do to make sure that you're alert. Yes. Like, sort of, yes, exactly. Yeah, so make sure you have a neighbor and you're housing the neighbor. Oh, you're being housed? Yeah, so in the spirit of the housing project. So you know the drill in the morning, what we did. Right, on my count, make sure you grab that finger, right? And you make sure your finger is not grabbed, right? So on my count, you wake up, wake up, wake up. In the afternoon, be alert. How nimble, how agile, how attentive are you? On my count, 1. This is a dummy run. 2, grab the finger. Come on, wake up again. That is a dummy run. Let's do the real thing, and you can redeem yourself now that you know. Now that you know, could we grab those fingers? Right, on my count, are you ready? On my count. 1. How attentive will you be? How agile, how nimble? How alert are you? On my count. 1. Tension. 2. Got it here! You got no one. Thank you. Clap for yourselves, please. Thank you so much. Financing and marketing strategic values chains. This is what we want to discuss briefly. And I think we'll just go straight to the panel discussion so that we can trim down on the presentations that were meant to be here because of time. And during the panel discussion, we can have introductory remarks, and then we can get to know more of our panelists to tell us more about themselves as well. And in the meantime, I'll want to just, since we have also Sir Errol King here as well, he can actually take care of His Excellency, and also Wambui as well, to officially release you as well. But Chair has something to say?
Maybe you just invite the panelists to come and take a photo as we release them.
All right. So the Chair is just reminding us we don't want to miss this particular moment. The panelists can come also. We just take part photo. right, our photo session together. So I'd like to call upon, here on the podium right now, Dr. Malcolm Beach, the President, Africa Diaspora Alliance, please. Malcolm, if you could just come and take and of course you're part of this session as well. Also, we had Wamboi introducing to us Samuel D. Jaigara, the founder of Zingibera, Belgium, right? So if you could just come forward as well. We solemnize this moment, we take a photo with you, and then we're going to release. Also, if Vincent Odambo, you're here, Regional Director, Ashoka East Africa. Vincent, let me just move away. If you're here, please kindly come. And lastly, if we have Guillaume Arditi, founding partner, Bevedera Advisory Finance, if you're here as well. Right, and the Mevida CEO as well. Mevida CEO, if you're here, kindly come to the podium as well. All right, we solemnize the moment. Thank you, our photographers as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Kindly join us. Yeah, we want to hear the clicks. Yeah, the battery of journalists are here, the photographers as well. Thank you so much. Financing and marketing strategic value chains is what we want to discuss. Your Excellencies, thank you. I really do appreciate. Thank you so much, CEO. Dr. Malcolm Beach, I think you're part of this panel. Don't go away. If you just could take your seats as well.
It's your panel now. Please come on.
So I'd like to call upon Dr. Ken L. Harris, the President, U.S. National Black Business League, who's going to moderate this session, please. Ken. Dr. Ken. All right. So what I'm going to do is to just maybe expand this particular discussion. We will also have the next panel just joining us so that we can have at least two conversations going concurrently. And Dr. Rosemary Musoma was actually meant to do this, but Dr. Ken Harris, if you're here, that will be wonderful so that we can continue the conversation. Dr. Beach is here. This is part of the discussion that you are contributing as well. Is there any representative from Kenya Airways on behalf of Mr. Alan Kilavuka? Anyone representing the CEO of Kenya Airways? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so I'll hand over this mic to the chair as we wait for Dr. Ken Harris. So you're going to do the moderation.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Okay. I know it's been a long day, but it's just beginning now. You know, the other one was like, we called it Kionjo, was to get us ready. We're getting into the beef and meat of things. I do know there are diverse parties in the room. There are those with businesses looking for markets. There are those with capital looking for good projects. There are those with projects looking for capital, affordable capital. And we have all those in the house. And there are those with projects, products, and services looking for markets. This afternoon, without much ado, I know he's shy, he'll not tell you he's a euro millionaire or a dollar millionaire, but the two colleagues we have here are in their own rights heavyweight. Without much ado, I want to call my boss from the Africa Diaspora Alliance side, Dr. Malcolm, formerly president of the National Business League in the US, Washington, D.C., currently domiciled in North Carolina. Every 3-4 months, he travels between US and Kenya. Give him a round of applause. Dr. Malcolm, please.
Thank you. Hello? Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Shim and the Kenya Diaspora Alliance Homecoming Committee. I really appreciate you welcoming me back again. This is my third time to be here. And if you detect from my accent, I come from another place across the water in the United States of America. We have about 50 million diasporans over there. Some of us came recently from Kenya, and then some of us came about 400 years ago on that terrible, terrible voyage of the transatlantic slave trade. But what I wanted to say to you today is that we're all together, you know. We are you and you are us. And what we've got to begin to understand is unity is what's going to make all of us powerful. Unity is what's going to make all of us wealthy. You know, Africa, without a doubt, is the wealthiest continent on earth. Do you know that? Do you believe that? Okay, so you have everything it takes to be successful in life, and not only you, but for your children and generations to come. Those of us in America, we have excellent corporate experience, okay? Great educations, 116 different historically black colleges and universities. And many of us also attended some of the white universities when they decided to desegregate a little bit, not a whole lot. But without the historically black colleges and universities, we really wouldn't have educated populace that we do have. But what I'm saying is that the diaspora has the talent and the education to work with you. You need to think more in terms of joint ventures. I know a lot of times we come to conferences and you hear, you know, that the draw is, well, the investors are coming. Well, that's not quite true. When I went through customs last night, my bag was a little light. It was not full of money. You know, no matter what you believe, a lot of diasporans are not coming here full of money. Remittances are great, but remittances are for the family members. That's grandma's money. Ain't no government gonna get grandma's money, okay, for any kind of development projects. So the only way you're really gonna have good development projects is to get the diaspora to feel comfortable and safe with putting their money in a joint venture. Nobody's going to just give you money to let you go have fun. You know, some folks are going to Mombasa next week, you know, and they're not investing in anything except in the ocean. Going to jump in the ocean, that's the only thing they're going to jump into. But so think about it as we go through this conference today about developing relationships. That's really where economic development comes from. Even if we talk about some of our Western brothers and sisters, they're talking about deals that they're putting together, working together. You know, even if you hear about BRICS, you know, the new organization that say they're going to do better by all of us than what the UN has done over time. But it's a business deal. It's business development, working together. You know, they're going to be lending each other money. They're going to be investing in each other's projects. And when we start talking about improving your life. Everything, I hate to sound terrible, but I'm a businessman, so my base of operation is always the same. You gotta have money. You know, if you want a good education, you gotta have money. You gotta pay that tuition, build that school, build that university. You want good health care? You gotta build a hospital, get the equipment, and hire the doctors and the nurses to come in. Everything takes money. Money comes from business transactions. So if you don't have a lot of business transactions going on, you're not gonna have any money. It's not coming from remittances. I want you to put that aside for a moment. That's grandma's money. You don't need a conference on remittances because you're never going to get it. There's nobody in the diaspora that, when given a choice, that he's going to send money to your treasury minister as opposed to sending it to his grandmother. You know, nobody. You know, and it's likewise with the other diasporans. When they look to Africa, they look for partners. So think about that. Come out of this conference today with a diaspora partner. Okay? Thank you.
Another round of applause to Dr. Malcolm Beach. Thank you. And Dr. Malcolm Beach fits very well also for the moderator for our session was meant to be Dr. Harris, the current president of the National Business League, who unfortunately couldn't make it, but this was his predecessor, so they are very well represented, the National Business League. Another round of applause for him. Thank you. We will be taking questions, Q&A, briefly, but allow me to introduce a gentleman that we met just about a month ago, or a little over a month ago, first in Paris. Then we were heading to, thanks to WIDU GIZ, we were heading to Brussels. And he told us, oh, I'm next day also on the flight going to Brussels. I'm actually Belgian. Said, okay, we have to meet there again in Brussels. The rest of the things about Simon, I'll tell you later. But soon after, we were with him again on the flight as I was coming through my second home, Kigali. Some call it Kigali in Rwanda. He was there, but now he's in Nairobi. A round of applause to him, Mr. Samuel. Please take the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Shem, for giving me the floor here. I'm so honored to be here at your 10th conference. My name is Samuel, and I'm from Belgium, and I happened to be in Nairobi because I came for the conference that Wambui organized, the Investor Summit, and I thought I'll stay a little bit longer. My girls at home, they're not very happy that I'm still here. They're 9 and 13 years old. They've been sweating it out for the last 2 weeks. But I'm happy to be here with you. I had actually not really prepared much because I thought Wambui would be representing me, but now that I'm here, I'll just say a few words improvised. First of all, I mean, Kenya is an incredible place, what I've seen so far. It's a tech hub, it's a diplomatic hub, and I think all of you can be so proud of Kenya. And I'm so happy to hear that I'm myself also Kenyan, as the whole of humanity is. Actually, we only became white, I think, about 6,000 years ago. That's very recent. So for the largest part of our history, we all have black ancestors. So I think we should always remember that we're all somehow African. I spend a lot of my life in West Africa, actually, and I feel also a little bit African, even though you may not think so at first sight. But I've always felt very deeply about this continent, and I've seen how it's been destroyed over the last 500 years, and it's been deeply affected. But I think the times have completely changed, and especially in the last year, I've seen so many developments, especially in the West African region, where you see people really standing up and trying to break those links with former overseas powers. And I think people are really taking charge of their destiny. So I think we have to really connect to that and not, as you rightly said, just have investors turn up here, but you need to build partnerships, you need to build joint ventures. And all of you out there, I think you can come here and facilitate those joint ventures. That's what I'm setting out to do as well through the company I've established, Zingibera. So I'm trying to develop platforms in various countries to connect entrepreneurs from Belgium and other places with entrepreneurs here and investors. One of the reasons I'm here also is because one of the investors in Belgium is very interested in student housing, and that's a big agenda here. I actually just met with the CEO of Acorn Holdings, which is the holding behind Kwetu hostels, which is quite big. They now have about 20,000 student houses here, 20,000 beds, 10 already made, 10,000 in the making. But if you look at the Kenyan population, it's about 800,000 18-year-olds every year that are added. And so the needs are enormous. Only about 4% of student housing has been built so far. So I think there's great scope of doing work here, but also beyond Kenya. Acorn Holding is one of the leaders or the biggest student housing provider on the African continent now. So there's great scope for potential in other countries, like Rwanda, Uganda, many places still need. The last point I wanted to make is that in terms of tech, I'm also impressed to see everything that is happening here at places like Nairobi Garage. I don't know if you've been there. If you haven't, you should go and have a look at all the startups that are being set up there. Today there's actually a conference going on with Estonian tech developers that are here in town and that are also presenting their applications and working together with Kenyans. So I think there's a lot to be done, and the world is no longer a unipolar world, it's a multipolar world, and you can see that in Kenya. There's influences from everywhere. Today I was on a call with a Belgian entrepreneur in the port of Mombasa, but he's working closely with people from India, from Dubai. Everything is interconnected, and I think we should just all try to collaborate together, and I hope forums like this will allow you to connect and to build partnerships. And if in any way we can contribute, as I said, I'm working very closely with Wambui Kahara. She will have, I think, her next summit in May. If some of you can be there, it would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
You know, I know a number of people normally come across enterprises, startups, and even mid-level, even those with large tickets. How do we get good capital for investments? I can whisper, when we were in Belgium, our ambassador, Professor Ndemo, whispered, you know, this gentleman comes from one of those wealthiest parts of Belgium. So please, looking for good capital, good partners, you know people to talk with. We're going to combine certain programs. Our next one, we will be doing affordable housing. So bear with us because we have just one speaker, then we shift gears to affordable housing. But this one speaker is equally interesting. Some of you, you'll tell us more about the DFC, the US Development Finance Corporation. But I remember 2-3 years ago when we had an event and we had a senior director speak, we gathered this is part of Prosper Africa, and we were told it's one of the smaller ones. But we have some $15 billion for infrastructure in Africa. We need a suitable vehicle. I don't know if that's still the case. Terry will tell us, or now that has even grown. A round of applause to Terry, who is also a diaspora returnee, as he takes the floor. Remember, he's also a precursor to Ambassador tomorrow.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
I'm a bit nervous, so don't make me more nervous. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great, thanks. My name is Teddy Onserio. I am a Kenyan. I lived in the US 11 years, just moved back in 2020. My current assignment here is working with a US agency called the Development Finance Corporation. I'd actually say it's one of the largest foreign policy tools of the US government. We make investments in the private sector. So we provide loans, we provide equity investments, we provide technical assistance, and we also provide guarantees to different projects and also companies in the private sector. The DFC has existed for decades, but previously went under the name OPIC, Overseas Private Investment Company. So we rebranded, actually not even rebranded. OPIC was phased away and DFC was instituted in 2020. And that's when I took up my assignment. So my role is to represent the DFC here in East Africa. I source for opportunities. I prepare them and put them into the DFC pipeline, after which I work with my teams in DC to take it through the approval process. In Kenya, we have investments of about $1.3 billion. And in Africa, we have investments of about $11 billion. All this is to the private sector. I think that's it for the DFC. We make investments of about $1 million on the minimum, all the way to $1 billion per company or per project. So it's quite a deep pocket. And I think that range is one that cannot be matched by many other development finance institutions, because we can do small, investments as well as big investments. Usually, it's one or the other. Examples of some companies we've done in Kenya. So this year, 2023, we made some loans to a company called Kentegra. It's a company that is manufacturing or processing pyrethrum. As you remember, in the 90s, Kenya used to produce 80% of the global supply of pyrethrum. Right. And that went under since the Pyrethrum Board of Kenya started experiencing problems in the early 2000s. In 2013 or so, the government started liberalizing the sector, and so new players came in, including Kentegra. And so they're the largest producer and now processor of pyrethrum, exporting most of the pyrethrin, which is the content, globally. So we hope that that's a sector that's is going to continue to grow just because of the economic benefits and the socioeconomic development aspect that it brings. We give them a loan for the expansion of their factory, and we broke ground on this factory in July of 2023 in Naivasha. So quite excited to see it coming through and hopefully bolstering the production there. In 2023 as well, we gave a loan to a company called Hewa Tele. It's a medical oxygen supply company supplying a few hospitals. Here in Nairobi, you'll see them at Amalusi. In Nakuru, you'll see them at the provincial general hospitals, among others. So again, a loan for them to expand on their production and supply more hospitals with their oxygen. There's several others. Again, we have $1.3 billion in the portfolio, so cannot quite go through most of them, but all of this is available on our website, dfc.gov, and you'll see more about that. I'm going to make 2 or 3 remarks based on my experience as a member of the diaspora. First, of course, we've had several speakers talk about how returns are great in Africa and the inflation is, risk-adjusted or inflation-adjusted returns are good. But as well, I'd like to challenge all the banks, advisors, and anybody here who is trying to promote that capital flow, that the Kenyan in New York, Kenyan in DC is not necessarily comparing bonds and land or bonds and an apartment. They're comparing their stock market with our stock market, and they're comparing buying a house in New Jersey and buying a house here. So I would encourage you to also put that into consideration, right? It's not just a question of, this is 18% and this other bank is giving you less here in Nairobi, because it's no longer obvious, let me put it that way. It's no longer obvious that they want to invest back home. So we need to make that case, right? And this, of course, goes beyond your mandate, because it's intricately intertwined with other things such as the political environment, ability to get dollars out, if possible. I think it was mentioned earlier in the morning, and the like. We've talked about the stock market, and I think the 18% has been quoted severally. In the last 3 years, it has been negative returns, right? Heavy negative returns. So we need to make an argument about why, Why? Before we even get to the assumption that you're always going to make money from that. And I'm a big believer in the Kenyan story. In fact, a small story is that in 2022, when we were going towards our general election, I think I was very positive about how the Nairobi Stock Exchange is going to do well. And because I corral a lot of investments from different individuals in the diaspora, I gathered some money, and we put a lot of money in the stock market, because we knew, there's a lot of hesitation from the different investors, especially the foreigners, because they were fleeing. And the unfortunate bit is that, of course, the election came, and we said, okay, yeah, we are definitely at the low, 20-year low, let's buy some more, with the hope that after the election, things are going to get better. But again, you cannot always predict, because other factors have come on board. Now it's a debt crisis. There's probably going to be another one next year and the like. But still, opportunity remains to be there. As the chairperson alluded, even though we've been in an elongated bear run, there's still a great opportunity. And I think now the point here I'm making is that the narrative that now has to be displayed that, look, I told people put money in 2022. We're now at the very bottom. I want to tell them put more money. I need to have a very strong narrative and a very strong argument as to why this is still a good idea, despite the losses I've already incurred, right? And then second thing I would say is let us all avoid the Kadogo mindset. I'm calling Kadogo mindset because we as Kenyans like doing things on our own. We like to progress by ourselves. You want to just make your small money, go build your small house and relax. Go build an apartment in your father's plot and then relax. We are not going to develop the economy, neither are we going to make massive amounts of wealth by working alone. You can never make investment opportunities alone and hope that you're going to succeed in the level that we hope to get to. So there should be unity of people. So your small money is not enough. Putting it all together, you now start having access to opportunities that you would never have had access to before. If you have $10,000 to invest, it's a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, in the investment landscape, it's very little money. But if there's 100 of you with $10,000, now we start talking. You can start having opportunities that you will not have had access to, right? Number two, I'd say, let's look at alternative investments. It's actually quite unfortunate sometimes when I hear government bonds being touted as the #1 kind of good investment in the country. Because we are not going to develop by investing in government bonds, right? Banks, it's not the job of banks to put money in government bonds as a huge portion of their portfolio. So how do we also enable capital to flow into SMEs and businesses that actually need the capital? Because they are the ones employing people. They are the ones actually who are the primary drivers of the economic development. And I think we need more such vehicles for us to be able to get to a place where we can say, you know, we are happy to be in. Right now at the DFC, I evaluate investments in all sectors, large power transactions, large real estate opportunities, you know, agribusiness, agro-processing. I just mentioned Kentegra. So an example is the Kipeto wind farm. It's a 100-megawatt plant, wind farm in Kajiado, supplying more than 100,000 households with wind power. You saw that BlackRock, is it BlackRock or Blackstone? One of those also invested in the Lake Turkana project. So where are the diaspora people? And guess what? The project developer of Kipeto is not going to come talk to you, small circle in Belgium, about investing in that project. If there is a way we can, and we talk about 4 billion, but 4 billion, while we are 1 million of us, is powerless as far as just having leverage is concerned. But if we are able to leverage and say, look, Kenya government, if there is any large project that is going to get a government guarantee, for example, because these large projects, government actually is involved in providing some form of risk mitigating, you know, element to the project. You know, like for example, in Kipeto, the government is required to offtake power, and we're required to be paid based on that. So if there is a regulation, for example, that says diaspora people have to get at least 5% stake or 5% allocation to such large projects that have government involvement, now, I mean, we start seeing opportunities where we can be able to raise money from the diaspora for productive uses, for energy, you know, for that kind of thing. Yeah? So I'd just encourage us to think about also diversity of our investments and the sectors that we invest in. Then I'll also say, let's professionalize our organizations. In the US, I know, for example, there's so many organizations. There's especially the SACCOs, yeah? There's the KNADS, the Kenya-US Diaspora SACCO. There's so many of those organizations. But you're all operating just like any other SACCO. We're not thinking about, hey, why don't we invite an expert in issue X to come tell us how we can start this company that can do X, Y, Z. Right now, because of that, I think we'll be limited to just building more and more, you know, property for us to come and sit in while it's in December. And again, I don't think that's the way to really turbocharge our development as an economy. So if there's a way to think about our SACCOs, I think, thank you very much for highlighting venture capital, highlighting private equity. I work with people in those sectors every single day, but they're all mainly foreigners, right? They're the ones who come, they see a startup, and they have the confidence to sort of back that startup. Yes, you, Mr. Diaspora, Mrs. Diaspora person sitting out there, may not understand what it is to invest in a startup, but can you bring a professional to manage a pool of money that you have raised so that you have access to those opportunities? So let's think about professionalizing our organizations and using those professionals to help us tap into opportunities that we would not have tapped into otherwise. Finally, I'll talk about the regulatory environment. I already spoke about how we can leverage ourselves, how we can put ourselves together and now leverage or at least lobby for us to get preferential access to alternative opportunities beyond what we already have, right? The example I gave about, for example, the power sector. And I'd say, lastly, it's not just the government. Development finance institutions are also keen and cognizant of the fact that the diaspora people are a crucial and critical component for the economic development of our countries. Examples were given about India and the rest, and Kenya is no different. If we came today and said, look, the Kenya-US Diaspora Circle has $5 million they want to invest in a road project or like a wind power project or a hydro project in Kenya. And we go to USAID and tell them, look, why don't you provide us a 50% guarantee or 100% guarantee, it wouldn't be 100, let's just say 80% guarantee that if this project does not succeed, we get at least 80 cents on the dollar for our money. That's a very feasible project, very, very feasible, because they are also keen to support Kenyans to support themselves. But we will never get there if we do not professionalize, if we don't come together and unite and put our money together, because it's in the togetherness that we get the leverage and the strength, and not by doing everything by ourselves. We can't do everything by ourselves, right? So that's it for me, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Today was Kionjo, teaser. Tomorrow we have a deal room. There'll be more of this you'll hear. We'll take 2 or 3 brief questions. Then we can wrap up, go to the next session. So if you have a question or a comment, the gurus are here, you've heard it. Okay? They say seeing is believing. And I'm sure in the House, talking of Development Finance Corporation, the equivalent perhaps of that in Kenya is Kenya Development Corporation, which the older generation know came from ICDC, IDB, Industrial Development Bank, and Kenya Tourism Finance. A representative of the CEO is in the house. Just wave Judy if you're in the house. Give a round of applause, sir. Hopefully we build networks, alliances here, and also learn and share lessons. If there is any comment or question anyone has to the panelists from Dr. Malcolm, you could even go further back to the High Commissioner if there was any, to Wambui, to Samuel, and now to Teddy. If you have any question, please, any comment or question? Did I see a hand? Okay. Did you see a hand? I didn't see a hand going. If there is a hand, we want this to be interactive, you know, before we get into the deal room tomorrow, because hopefully deal room, there are deals which will be transacted of one form or another tomorrow. So we are just setting the ground. So yes, give Elizabeth, she'll introduce herself. A round of applause as she stands up. I thought she was still in New York. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Elizabeth Asichi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, Kakamega County Investment and Development Agency. Good. I'm here on behalf of the County Government of Kakamega, although the Deputy Governor will be joining us tomorrow for this event. Right. I just have a question to Mr. Teddy on his elaborate presentation on DFC. We really want to know how you can work directly with counties. I know we have a very good relationship with the U.S. government, especially just in May we had the U.S. ambassador launching an organic fertilizer plant in Kakamega County, and it is a US-based company which was onboarded in less than 6 months. So as we are onboarding investors, and I am asking how we can have a formal way of counties working directly with him. Thank you.
A round of applause to her. Thank you, Madam CEO. Which hand was that? Okay.
Some startups here, they take a long to sort of pick up. And if I had the word, we were talking about 1 million, I don't know if that was a minimum investment. So what do you do with the long of the investors? Because if you know very well, we're talking of hustlers in this government. Most of them are very informal. Do you also consider those investors that have not yet formalized their businesses? Or what kind of solutions would be over there? Thank you.
Okay, a round of applause to Brother Simon. Thank you very much. I'll also make my comments and then give them opportunity for answering and final remarks. Then we hand over. One goes with the hustler narrative and also what Terry talked about. What's close to credit union? One good thing you'll probably be happy to hear is that we work with a number of diaspora circles and the State Department of Cooperatives to evolve a credit union or a federation of diaspora circles. I think tomorrow we'll be having Kenya Police.
The private sector. So if we're going to work with the Kakamega County, it has to be with the business that could be in partnership with the county, but has to be controlled by the private sector, because that's our mandate by law, is to work with privately owned businesses. Alternatively, if you get opportunities from businesses coming to the county seeking for permission to operate in the county, licenses, etc., and if maybe financing is a challenge, happy to also engage them so that we can facilitate their expansion into Kakamega County. Otherwise, happy to chat more if you have any other questions. Thanks.
A round of applause. Thank you, Terry. Your final word, Samuel.
Okay,
I'll respond to the question about the amount of funding you need, and I think it's a great idea of pooling funds amongst the diaspora to have bigger capital to invest. There's great opportunities. I mean, beyond, we talked about the stock exchange here, but if you just look, for example, at the housing market here, today there was an article also a couple of days ago that the government will also invest now in student housing because it's actually quite a profitable undertaking. If you have some capital, 5 million to invest or something, if you pull it together and you invest it, you will get returns depending on where you invested, but you can get returns 25 to 30%, you can get them 10%, and if you have a mixed blend, maybe 18% return. So those are good returns. Have all these electric motorcycles, and it's a company here based in Kenya that just started off. It's the first one on the continent, and immense potential here and even maybe in India. So, there's a lot happening here, and I think you just need to look at how to fundraise and to invest. Thank you.
A round of applause. Yes, Samuel.
Just I forgot to say, just to make Belgium popular, we are the biggest importer of Kenyan coffee in the world. Thank you.
Nice. A round of applause. Okay, we have friends of Kenya in the house. One biggest importer. Another, when you got independence, we're the first to recognize you. Another is we have this big funding that already we are doing, and you need to do more. And we need more friends. A round of applause for the two colleagues. Dr. Malcolm, your closing remark, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a quick, two quick commercials for myself. I'm in the solid waste management business. Our firm turns trash into electricity. If you're interested in that, see me after the meeting. Also, we sell cold boxes. In other words, we sell solar-powered 40-foot containers that allows farmers to put their harvested goods into the refrigeration system so that you reduce your post-harvest losses. And the third thing is we're in affordable housing. We actually manufacture housing in Northwest America. And if you're interested in that, affordable housing, low-cost manufactured houses is the way to go. And my second commercial is that America, $35 trillion GDP. If you're going to sell something, sell it to America. AGOA, the AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunity Act is still alive. It may be extended for another 15 or 20 years. Get a partner in America to help you sell your goods and services. Thank you.
Thank you. Another proper round of applause. Thank you. Yes, the good thing is that we have allies. So when it's EU, it's a bigger cake, a big enough cake, the US. What more would one need? Maybe lastly, as I yield the floor to the next panel, remember we have the Director General of Ethiopia Diaspora Authority. We'll hear maybe tomorrow how the Ethiopian diaspora came together. You know about the Big Power Project? I understand part of it was done by the diasporas. He will tell us. Give a round of applause to the Ethiopian diasporas. Thank you. As my colleagues yield the floor, the Balas, you come over with the affordable housing team. You can start moving close. Remember, without these private enterprises that you are seeing in the house, the ones coming now, we wouldn't be here. As you give them a round of applause, let's also give the incoming panelists a round of applause. Thank you.
A good round of applause for them. Dr. Malcolm Beach, President Africa Diaspora Alliance, Mr. Samuel D. Jaigere, founder Zigibera Belgium, and also Teddy for that insightful discussion that we've just had here, Teddy from DFC. So it's good to note that yes, the AGOA will be extended. Dr. Malcolm Beach, I think everyone was a bit antsy about the extension of AGOA, so maybe this is a leakage that you're giving us way in advance. That was meant to be lapsing next year, and we can see in Uganda, AGOA also has maybe with the recent frosty relationship that has developed between Uganda and the US, of course, regarding the infamous, as the humanitarian community will call it, LGBTQ bill, that AGOA, and maybe if the funding also is not coming through, that will not be extended as well. So what will be the way forward looking at that? So are they facing the East? Because we can see a lot of the development as well. As they're planning, they're facing the East right now for their funds. So it's a good thing, and I think we've not been utilizing AGOA as much as we should as Kenya, looking at the exports that has been heavily reliant on the apparel industry. We need to diversify. Of course, we have good minds here, we have good technology that are coming up, just as we've had so far, very novel. We should always be proud of ourselves that M-Pesa began here and has been transported to the entire world. So money being transmitted through a mobile, of course, devices, that is one of a kind that actually developed from Kenya. So we are proud of that as well. So we can diversify on our portfolio, on what we can actually do with that AGOA opportunity at the end of the day. Affordable housing is a very dear topic to Kenyans right now. It's been drawing a lot of reactions on every aspect of media that we do have. And this is where we want to really navel-gaze right now and just discuss what are the opportunities in the cities and counties when we're talking about urbanization supporting urban growth. And our panelists are already here. And I would like to call, if we have with us Dr. John Latham, CEO, Unity Homes. I think this is Jason. It's not Jonathan, but Jason Holmes. You can come actually be on part of a panel. Yes. Also, Dr. Esther Ndonga, CEO, Chad Africa. If you're here, this will be a nice opportunity as well. Dr. Esther Ndonga, CEO, Chad Africa. We have Masons Realtors as well, if they're here. Mason Realtors. Optiven. I've not seen George Washihuri. Maybe we have a representative from Optiven as well. If you're here, you could actually join the panel from Optiven. All right, you'll come and also introduce yourself. Do we have Arnold Rautenbach from Absa Bank Group Limited, or a representative as well, right at Absa. We had Absa representative here in the morning. This will, yes, there he is as well. He'll come and also shed light on this, the issue of affordable housing. So a round of applause for our panelists. I think we have a full house. And I want now to yield the floor to our moderator for this session, Sir Errol King, who will take over.
Thank you very much, Dibal. Thank you. I'm so happy to be called Sir Errol King because I got that name from my mentor here and our global chair. But anyway, this is how we address ourselves within the context of diaspora affairs. Thank you all for being here. Affordable housing is a very, very touchy subject. I think we started talking about affordable housing when Vision 2030 got traction. Vision 2030 gave rise to the reality or the realization that housing is a legal right. It's a need for each citizen, and housing must be provided within a context where there's a water supply, there's power, there's connected infrastructure, and there's social and physical infrastructure surrounding that housing. So it was put in a context initially to activate the growth of urban and peri-urban development. In more recent times, with the entrenchment of infrastructure brought about by implementation of Vision 2030, we've seen more roads, more connectivity, leading to more settlements outside the urban and peri-urban centers. For example, if you go to Laikipia, Optival, I'm sure, could confirm what I'm saying. There's a lot of growth of housing in the counties coming up. So the challenge is now, as we talk about affordable housing, in what context do we need to place affordable housing? We're now in the medium-term planning frame 4 of Vision 2030. Our president, under the beta bottom-up economic transformation agenda, amplifies the need to provide citizens with housing. But there are challenges, of course, and before I proceed to interrogate what those challenges could be, I would like the panel to kindly introduce themselves to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a microphone? I think we go one at a time. Then we can't find the mic. First, please take the podium. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Hi, Dr. Shem. How are you? Thank you for having us. I'm not John Latham. John Latham is also not a doctor, so I'm not sure where that came from. My name is Jason Horsey. I've been parachuted in the last minute, so please forgive my lack of preparedness. But I'm one of the executive directors of Unity Homes. So we are a Pan-African residential real estate developer. We currently have 3 projects here in Kenya, and we have 1 in Nigeria, with a total of about just under 3,000 homes under project at the moment. So here in Kenya, we have a 1-bedroom project going for 5.5 million shillings. We have a 2-bedroom project going for 9.5 million shillings. And then we've ventured into the slightly more upmarket space of these London townhouses, which is called Silver Hill, going for about 36 million shillings. What really differentiates us to most of our competition is our business model is fundamentally different than your traditional developer. So if you look at most developers, they go out, they raise a pot of equity, and they'll outsource the entire value chain. No disrespect to any developers here, but they outsource the entire value chain. So you get engineers, you get QSs, you get contractors, and there's a distinct lack of alignment all the way down that value chain. So you get, first of all, what happens, you get fee leakage. No one's doing that work for free. They're all charging money. And then you've got a distinct lack of alignment. A contractor is going to come in and out as quickly and as cheaply as he can. So what we have done, we've vertically integrated that entire value chain in-house. So right from design, development, construction, sales and marketing are all in-house. And as I said, this allows us to align that value chain much more efficiently to actually focus on what is really important to us, which is ultimately delivering really high-quality homes to our clients. You know, almost organically or by mistake, a big chunk of our sales is in the diaspora. So we're at about 35% diaspora sales. And I think a big part of this is people trust us. One of our core values is integrity. I think it's probably everyone's core values, but we live and die by our integrity. We've actually got very clear, distinct policies and procedures governing what we do with people's money. Because I think everyone in this room has met someone or knows someone who's been burnt by a developer. We are an unscrupulous industry. So for us, it's absolute sacrosanct that we treat your money with respect. So we do not use your money for anything else other than building your unit. We can only access the profit on that unit once we've handed over the unit to our clients. You know, we see this, we were formerly contractors, and what we would see, you see a contractor getting an advance payment, and the next thing you know, he's got a brand new VX. That is not looking after your client's money with respect. For us, it is absolute sacrosanct. Integrity is our foremost value, and your money is safe with us. So I'd encourage everyone to come and visit us. We're not far from here. We're in Tartu City, and we're welcome to meet you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that marketing pitch. We're going to charge you a bit more. You got free advertisement. But thank you, Jason. Can I have Dr. Esther on the floor, please?
Good evening. Yes, my name is Dr. Esther Donga from a company called Chad Africa Limited. I know it's new to most of you, but it is not new to diaspora clients because the majority of our clients are from diaspora. The company started in the year 2013, and currently we are doing our 6th project. We are trying to house Kenyans who are in the city, in Kitengela, that is Kajiado County, and also our first project was in Kiambu, a place called Roiro. So we are embracing the model of affordable housing, since we have noted that majority of the Kenyans would like to own their own home, and so that they can be able to settle their families. Our model is a bit different from a majority of the developers, because as we construct in phases, we buy rods and we construct in phases. Once the one phase is done, we set out as a complete house. So what is required is that for you to come and just occupy, and you pay us through either cash or either mortgages. We are working with several financial institutions that are supporting us. I've heard of new ones that I would like to engage them further. This one tells you that the agenda for the government, the current government, of affordable housing and settling as many Kenyans as possible is going to be realized through all of us here, private sector, the government, to facilitate us, and that will happen very soon. So thank you so much. Just in case you would like to visit our project, our current project is in Kitengela. We are calling it Pine Brook Premier Villas. The estate has 3 and 4 bedrooms, and it will be able to house a family, your family. I know you're not that very big, and even if you're big, I think a 4-bedroom can accommodate you. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause for Esther. Good commercial pitch. Thank you very much. Next on our panel is our friend from Absa Bank. Kindly take the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Habari zenu. My name is John Kaburu. I am here representing Absa Bank. In the morning, you heard my colleague Simon Gashahe, who was talking broadly about Absa. And I'm sure he must have mentioned some things. But before I get into it, I'm the head of mortgages at Absa Bank. I'm also a regional manager in charge of our Queensway cluster. But today the conversation is around affordable housing, and it fits within our own purpose. For those in the diaspora, you probably knew a bank that was called Barclays. We separated with them and remained a Pan-African bank, operating in Africa with a vision, and our purpose is to empower Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. So it's an individual conversation about growth, about your growth. So in terms of offering in the affordable housing space, I may start with saying the broader 4 main things we do in mortgages, which is first, to help customers buy homes. 2, to to help customers build their homes. We also have 2 others where a customer has already invested and they want to release capital out of it to do other projects outside. We call it equity release, and that talks to rental income. If you are an investor from abroad, you have rental income around, we can combine with your diaspora income, and we expand your project and give you additional financing. The last one is where we support you take up. We can take your loan from another institution at friendlier terms, and you can reach out to us on that. So broadly, the affordable housing opportunities we see have come from 2 fronts. One is political and government goodwill to commit resources into that, and I think there is a whole conversation around it. But there is also the reality after the 2020 Constitution around the county devolved setup, where now you have towns opening up and growing up. So we are coming in there ourselves, and our primary driver in affordable housing, ABSA, we invested in Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. We are shareholders of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, which is a primary driver of affordable housing from a demand-side perspective. That is from a customer perspective. So as shareholders, we also went ahead and we accessed funds which we on-lend to customers for single dwelling units, or rather for dwelling homes, whether it's a flat, apartment, a single unit, or whether you want to buy or build. And with that, we have a kitty of almost 3 billion right now. It's the biggest in the market. And what we are encouraging is you can come for it either yourself, or you can support your relative to acquire a home at a very friendly rates. So if you look at the Kenya Mortgage, KMRC financing loans, they are competing with the rent that some of us are paying. So we encourage you to analyze that opportunity. We've gone further ahead in terms of creating partnerships. I know we have an arrangement with Unity Homes. He's mentioned about what they're doing there. And we have a partnership with them where we are supporting Kenyans acquire homes, even at Unity Homes, and other key leading developers who we first test, do due diligence, and confirm that the property is good to go in as a customer. Then other things that we have tried to do is to also join up with other players in the sector, Kenya private developers, the leading developers at Mivida and others, so that we create a system that then helps us fulfill that purpose that I talked about. So you can visit us at any of our branches, or you can also visit our social media handles, and someone will reach out to you and help you, or your relative. I'm around to discuss further the affordable housing agenda.
Come on, another round of applause to Mr. John Kaburu. He's working within a financial ecosystem that allows housing to be procured through a mortgage product with ABSA Bank. So thank you. Last but not least, we have our main sponsors, represented by Mr. Samuel Kariuki of Mivida Homes. I've given them the final slot because they have a presentation to make, which I'm sure the technology person is fully attuned to. And he will introduce himself and give us a verbal talk on what the company does, their philosophy, and their involvement in the sector, and thereafter make a presentation. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Give him a round of applause. Round of applause, Makofi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Samuel Kariuki, as I was being kindly introduced. I lead the team at Mivida Homes and the Garden City Development. So I think it's also my opportunity to welcome KDA to our neighborhood. We are just across the road we are based at Garden City Development. The Garden City Development, a 48-acre mixed-use development, is our anchor development. We've been on it, I believe, since 2011, anchored by Garden City Mall. Until about 5 years ago, it used to be Kenya's and the region's largest mall. We have a Garden City Business Park where we host the EABL and Diageo and CCI, but largely, about 70% of that development will be residential. As the technology support puts up my presentation, just to thank Dr. Shem, thank you very much for inviting us. We are really happy and honored to partner with you at KDA. We see the potential, like everybody else or like the government, for what KDA and the wider diaspora can do to our economy. I think I was not here early in the morning, but I suppose it's no longer a secret. Our single largest source of US dollar is you, the people in the diaspora. My work is to convince you that part of that $4 billion should now be going to real estate and affordable housing, which is quite topical at the moment. So as I said, I represent Mivida Homes. Mivida Homes is owned by Actis. Actis is a private equity fund manager, quite well known. If you go to the next slide, please. Yes. Actis has been in Kenya for decades. If you don't know the brand, you certainly have interacted with brands that Actis has invested in. In one way or the other, every Kenyan has interacted with an Actis brand. We are right here enjoying electricity power. Kipeto Wind Power has been an Actis asset for many years. Most likely you will have your coffee at Java. Java is currently owned by Actis. On the real estate sector, Garden City Development has been our flagship development. But if you live along Gong Road, there's a Junction Mall, which was, used to be one of the larger malls back then, invested by Actis. If you go along Eastern Bypass, there's a Nairobi Gate Logistics Park, again an Actis investment. If you get to be accommodated at Radisson Blu chain of hotels, the one in Upper Hill is owned by Actis. As you can see, Actis has been an institutional PE investor in Kenya for a long time. Until recently, we used to be what we'd call an investor developer, meaning we invest but also develop real estate as Actis. But 4 years ago, a decision was made to change our model of operating on the residential side. So Actis decided to create a platform and back a platform. And that platform is now called Mivida, meaning anything Actis does from a residential perspective in Kenya and in the region will now be done through Mivida. To institutionalize, to set it up, to learn from best practices globally, we partnered with an organization in India called SPRE. It's a difficult name to pronounce. Shapurji Palonji Real Estate. They are a well-known developer, conglomerate in India, as you can imagine, in India, producing houses, industrial scale by the thousands. And the idea then was Actis Capital would combine with the technical capacity of SPRE to scale an affordable housing platform here in Africa. Other than development and managing Garden City, we do own property management arm, meaning every development that we complete, we follow on with subsequent property management. If you go to the next slide, it showcases the Garden City development. I believe it's no stranger to most of you who know Thika Road. This is Garden City illustrated as will be when finally completed, but happy to say up to 75% of that is now complete. The very tall towers you see there were the flagship Mivida project. Phase 1 completed, handed over. We are now doing phase 2. And I saw, phase 2 is this one being called Amaya. On the very last side of it, we are on the top left of that slide, we have a new affordable housing project, 640 units, currently under construction. We've partnered with International Housing Solutions for offtake and equity, and that currently then should be under construction. Outside of Garden City, we've now started exploring other areas where we have demand. And there's a project in Riruta called Keza, and that's the KEZA board that you see there. This is a 1,500 unit project when fully completed. It's about 5 minutes off Waiakwe when you start going down Naivasha Road, not far from Ilri. 1,500 when completed, and I think it's a good way to say we are trying to replicate, what we used to call estates many years back, develop a Nyayo estate at scale. So we are quite active. We've been in the market, trying to scale up, trying to respond to some of the institutional challenges that affect provision of housing here in Africa, or in Kenya specifically. If we now skip a bit of those slides, the next slide just showcases what has been completed. That's our affordable housing project at Garden City, 640 units. And the next in that slide is the KEZA Estate project in Ruruta, a large-scale master planned project now under construction. More about the project, we do have a desk just outside the main door, so feel free to pass by and get as much information as you can. So I've been given an interesting task that in 7 minutes now, I should discuss affordable housing. And in 7 minutes, I'm supposed to do what requires 15 hours at best, or 15 days at best, to discuss this important topic of affordable housing. But the question then is, what is affordable housing? Is it just another passing cloud? Why has it been so topical in the last 7 or so years? If you look at the graph of Kenya's GDP from 1960 to date, something you note, from 1960 up to 2002, it's a relatively flat GDP growth. And by 2002, after the KANU rule, the Kenya GDP was roughly $12 billion or so. Fast forward to today, and if you look at that graph, there is an inflection point. And that inflection point up to 2023 shows you that the Kenya's GDP has grown 10 times to 130 billion Kenya shillings, nominal GDP, and 200 billion plus, 130 billion US dollars in nominal GDP, 200 billion dollars plus at PPP. Which then means, if the economy has grown 10x, obviously the middle class has expanded. Obviously, general consumer demand has expanded. What has that meant for housing specifically? Nothing much. Those who are older, like me, who lived through the 80s and the 90s, would tell you nothing much was happening at scale in the real estate sector in Kenya until 2002. But with the economic reforms, the surging demand after 2002, investors moved back to investing in real estate. Not surprisingly, we investors would have focused on the more higher end, the prime real estate. Why? Because demand there was deep. There wasn't much supply, and demand was growing. And over that time then, focus was in investments, in Lavington, Kileleshwa, and the likes, the more mid-market and higher end. We haven't had until recently quality institutional developers in the affordable space. And when I say institution, I'm talking of the likes of Unity Homes. I'm talking of Mivida, a company, a corporate setup in a corporate. What that then has meant is that over that time, as the middle class is expanding, the demand for housing has grown exponentially, but the supply has not kept pace. Today, the statistic being shown is that we have a demand or a deficit today of 2 million residential units. We are able to do 50,000 as a market. So all developers, Unity Homes, ourselves, everybody, we are able to do only 50,000. Of the 50,000, only about 1,000 would qualify as affordable housing. What that tells you is that the demand is very deep and long-term. The addressable market for affordable housing is very deep and long-term. And there is an overlap between what we in the private sector call affordable and what the government defines as affordable. The government defines anybody earning up to 150,000 shillings as qualifying for affordable housing. If you earn 150,000 shillings, probably you take home, well, at least before the housing levy, about 120,000 shillings or so. If you cannot use more than 30% of your pay on housing, it means anything renting up to about 40,000 shillings qualifies under government definitions as affordable housing. We stretch that a little bit to the next level, the missing gap, to say 60,000 rent and below generally could be affordable. But it is what is affordable to the emerging middle class, not to confuse with social housing. So deep demand, large addressable market, significant mismatch between what is being supplied, what is in the pipeline, and what is needed. What drives this demand? Everybody talks of homes. I know we are called Mivida homes. Unit is called Unity Homes. I have a thesis. Today, ownership of homes is a want. Everybody wants to own a home. But then the affordable quality rental is a need. Nairobi will remain a rental market for the foreseeable future. And therefore, what we developers are doing in the market today is actually developing investment products, because buyers in this market will largely remain investor buyers. You and I buying a home to rent out. It's going to remain an investor buyer market and a rental market for a while. So if you think about it from that perspective, that the market is rental, then you start to see that the 2 million deficit is real. You don't have to go far. If you just drive behind this magnificent hotel, you will see what is being provided as affordable housing. Very unplanned sprawl of flats. On the next slide, the slide before that, go back. Back. Thank you very much. What are some of the demand drivers? Well known, of course, in the last 20 years, our infrastructure spend has exceeded what Kenya did in the first 50 years of independence, which means new areas in the Nairobi metropolitan have been opened up, but also new areas outside of Nairobi, in new cities like Mombasa and Kisumu, to the extent that now Nairobi goes as far as Limuru, as far as Thika, as far as Athi River. Obviously, then that is supporting expansion of affordable housing, but with devolution. Okay. Yeah. I increase my volume. Okay. Let me increase my volume. Because of devolution, it means new centers of economic activities have come up, and counties are now emerging as economic centers. And of course, there is the rising urbanization. For you in the diaspora, if you go to the next slide, you are coming in at an interesting point, because this is what has happened to the Kenya shillings to US dollar. The Kenya shilling has lost 25% of its value this year alone. It used to be a constant 100, not about 3 years ago. What it means for you is, for the same Kenya shilling equivalent of buying a unit, I need less dollars. So I cannot think of a better time to invest in housing, in real estate, than today, with this sort of dynamics. And the final slide there then is looking at what are the demand drivers for real estate as an asset class. Of course, it's a large addressable market. I think I've spoken to the demand and the deep demand for it. It's a real asset, so security of investment, but there is one element I like to discuss a lot called inflation hedging. Prices of real estate and rental will almost over a period adjust with inflation. So real estate income is a special investment in the sense that it is inflation hedged. You do not lose your value long term because of inflation. There is no other reason to invest in real estate. That's a primary reason why I would buy in real estate. On the next slide, what do you watch out for? You are based somewhere in Luxembourg or London. You want to invest in real estate in Kenya. Please work with credible institutional developers. Yeah? Only credible institutional developers. Think of what happens to the asset after it's handed over to you, who is managing that property, who is managing the estate. I know the tendency of Kenyans to want to be their own developers. Do I participate in this affordable housing as a developer, or do I buy ready-made units? Depends on your risk appetite. Development risk is very, very high risk. All right. Last but not least, other than investing by buying a unit, I think people like us are now emerging to offer financial investment opportunities. Very soon, Mivida will be launching a development REIT, an affordable housing, a green affordable housing development REIT, that will then allow individual investors who don't want to buy houses to be financiers of these projects. It will be regulated, anchored again by activists and institutional investors, which gives it credibility with the CMA regulation, and of course with an NSE listing. So that is the 15 minutes I need to cover what needs 15 hours. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Let's give him another round of applause, please, please, please. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, sir. One of the good things about this forum is that all these wonderful people who have attended this forum are available for further consultation at their booth. So in the absence of, or the limitations of time, we're not going to ask too many plenary questions. We're just going to simply ask maybe one or two leading questions which pertains to the type of development which is taking place. We have areas like Kilimani, for example, which has developed into what we call a concrete jungle, and the absence of regulation, the absence of lack of sensitization to green spaces means that children are playing within concrete wall developments, or they're playing on the roof of those developments. Can I ask the panelists here how they plan their development in terms of the environmental aspects to build in? And as we move into more of an urban dispensation, what are their future plans for ensuring that green spaces are preserved and our children have somewhere to play? Thank you. Can I start off with Mr. Latham, please?
Thank you. Whoops. So our developments at the moment are in Tartu City, and in terms of green space, we are currently co-developing with Tartu City a 35-acre park on one site and a 20-acre park on the other site. So we have co-invested $400,000 into this. This includes walking trails, picnic spots, barbecue spots. There's a gym, there's a mini-mart, there's a football pitch, there's a basketball court, because these green spaces, and particularly these amenities, are incredibly value accretive. So we're obviously trying to give our tenants a good life, but in turn, people are willing to pay more for their rent. And ultimately, this is a pure investment. If people are willing to pay more for the rent, the yields go up, and in turn, the property values go up. So it is something that's very dear to our heart. Obviously, green space, as you said, Kilimani is notoriously bad, but it's also very good business. And it's something that we will always do at all of our estates, is ensure we have green space and ensure we have world-class amenities.
Thank you. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Madam Esther, Dr. Esther.
Yes, for our current project, that is Pinebrook Premier Villas, we have set aside a green area where we have allowed children to play, and also we have a basket pitch for the community to relax during maybe the weekends or when they have free time. In our project also we usually have waste treatment plant which recycles water that usually greens the plantation in the estate. And actually one of our colors as a company is green, because all our estates must be green. When we go to a dry spelled area like Itegera, when we are coming out of that project, the project inside and outside of the estate must be green. That is our agenda, is to make sure that the environment that our projects are in green environment and conducive for homeowners. Again, when it comes to the management of the estate, once the project is done, we hand over to the management company that is comprised of the owners, the former management team, so that they manage the estate the way it's supposed to be. And even after our handover, the estate is maintained the way we left it. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause. Thank you. One question for the Barclays Bank, Bwana Kaburu. In terms of your appraisal for financing affordable homes, what emphasis do you place on the design accommodating green spaces? Because we're in a green era. We've all been to China. We've seen Guangzhou, for example, where now, in recognition of environmental considerations, they're having to create green spaces along the road by lifting pavement slabs and planting trees. We are not at that stage yet. We are now at an early stage of our development, and the banks have an important role to play in ensuring that the projects they finance meet environmental consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was worried whether you'd ask us about whether we develop, but we are financiers. And I think I'll start off by saying, and it's Absa Bank. Barclays flew away some 3 years ago. Now we call ourselves Absa, and we're also known with Africanacity. Now, Absa is committed to the sustainability agenda. In South Africa, we were the first and the biggest player in that field. And locally, this year alone, we partnered with a key developer, Aecon, who are financing them up to a tune of 7 billion. And the motivation for that project was particularly its alignment towards green. If you look at our own buildings, we have 5 so far that have been EDGE certified, which is an indication of our commitment in that direction. So when it comes now to affordable housing, we are keen to work with partners who are also committed in that direction. I think Mayvida is also one of those that are there. Unity Homes, it's among the considerations that we are taking in as we get into partnerships. And even down to individual level, I talked about funding homeowners when they are building. We'll also, at least as a basic, insist on NEMA certification before we can finance a project. And ultimately, where we are today, we are in discussions with IFC to how do we then give benefits or rebates to homeowners who are purchasing into projects that are green or EDGE certified, in a way that we also contribute to that. We know initially it will be a higher cost in terms of the project, but how do we rebate that to the end user? So there are conversations on that. I may not talk much about it right now, but it's a commitment that we have made, starting with ourselves, with the partners we are working with, and going on to the end user financing.
Come on, round of applause. He wanted to talk more about financing, but it's about the green spaces now, because we are concerned in Nairobi about the lack of green spaces that's been taken away with the built environment. Finally, for Mr. Kariuki, I want to ask him what accommodation has he made in terms of his sensitization of development for the diaspora community. We know that 30% of the housing, the built-out environment is bought and is sold to the diaspora. And the diaspora has been exposed to different building systems, different architectural genres, and a different way of doing things from our traditional African way of building. So as we move forward, are we moving forward with the times? Do we have products that we can offer to the diaspora that is commensurate with their needs? Thank you.
Thank you, and that's a good question. Quick answer to your question is yes. Remember the point I said is when you're thinking of investing in real estate in Kenya, I think institutional developers, if you want to buy off-plan or completed units, with institutionalization then comes an assurance that certain processes from conceptualization to design, to implementation, to post-development management, that in many ways match to what is happening outside of Kenya, have been incorporated. So I suppose institutionalization then gives you that form of comfort. In many ways now, what you're seeing in the wider Nairobi, at Tatu City, in our own developments, etc., I could argue is as good as what you can find in London in many ways. Whether it's the design, the product offerings, or just the whole quality of customer engagement from onboarding to the end. But I sensitize and I continue to insist, only work with institutional developers. That's what gives you the assurance about these things that you're talking about.
Thank you very much, Makofi, and thank you for this wonderful panel. Mr. Dibal, it's your time. But just remember, as we leave the housing sector, anywhere in the world, housing stock contributes a percentage of GDP. We have yet to get the housing stock in this country recognized as a growth center for GDP. But these are the actors who are there. They're going to make it happen for us. Please give them a round of applause as we leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause again for Sir Errol King for that wonderful moderation, and for the panelists as well for the rich stream of information that we've garnered from you this afternoon. I think now everyone is adequately informed as far as the issue of affordable housing is concerned. We're streamlining ourselves in light of environment and social governance when it comes to also sustainability in the real estate sector and the financing. This is what you're talking about. If you're not aligning to what NEMA is wanting in terms of environment as well, that is part still of the green financing that everyone now is shaking into place to and trying to also be compliant. So a round of applause again for our panelists for that good rich stream of information even as they take their seats. But before you do that as well, we'll just want to have a Kodak moment, right? Just to have a little bit of time with our photographers here to just solemnize this moment so that you can actually be holding your smiles as you take the pictures as well. So I'll welcome you, our photographers, if we could just be upstanding so that we could take that. And if my ushers who are around here, they can come here. Yeah, this is, yep. Move forward. Right, as they're doing that, the next session that we want to, I know we're really pinched for time, and thank you again for being amazingly patient. We will just make sure that we try and tie this in together. So the next two sessions that is about telling our stories, right? Our way, how digital technology and platforms can enhance the distribution and the marketing of African creative arts products and services. And I believe we had the CEO of Kenya Music Copyright Society, and this is Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, who made a quote in the morning from the author Ben Okri, that if you want to poison a nation, can anyone remember that particular quote? If you want to poison a nation, what do? You poison their stories, right? And I think that was quite a very insightful quote there from Ben Okri. If you want to poison a nation, you poison their stories. How then do we tell our stories? What devices can we currently actually use to tell our stories? How is the consumption of this is just a part of a discussion that we have, consumption of African content, diaspora investment in the creative arts and digital platforms for enhanced revenue streams, rescuing the creative arts. This is where we want to also just navel gaze for now, briefly. And allow me, if we could just combine this with, because I think also when we're talking about sports, and this is where we'll have Ludwig also coming in, Ludwig Aduda, when we'll have also leveraging on investment in sports and sports tech for pro performance of sports in Kenya. So we'll have both this of conversation here with our panelists who will be taking us through. And allow me just to introduce some of them who are here. If we have Engineer Yinka Abiyowe, the chairman, the Inspire Group, that is FESCTAC Africa, Carbon Africa. If you could just come up to the podium as well, we'll be happy to have you. I don't know if we'll have any representative from Consul General Kenya Consulate, that is from Los Angeles. We were to have His Excellency Ambassador Thomas Kwaka Omolo. If we have any representative as well to just join us on the panel, that would be good. Douglas Ogeto, co-founder and CEO of Ludic Works, esports and gaming company. If you're here, I'll be happy also to have you on the panel. Sam K. Mwangi, founder and CEO, Social Meds Digital, that is a digital and artificial intelligence company. If you're here, right, also join us on the panel. MAI, where are you? If you're here, MAI, kindly. Also, Rachel Wanaina, YFP Africa. Rachel Wanaina, YFP Africa. And Motivate Family. Motivate Family, if there's anyone from there as well, kindly join the panel to enrich this discussion. From the sports side, to moderate also and to just help us in the, before we go to the sports segment, I'll have also Ruth Owino, who's the president of Association of Diasporans in Belgium and Luxembourg, joining us as well to just carry on with that conversation on the creatives. And Ludwig Aduda kindly also will come and co-moderate just to bunch up these two sessions together. If you're Ludwig here, kindly come to the podium, Ludwig Aduda. And I would like to call some of his panelists, Ali Sambali, founder Ali Mali Sports Management. If you're here, Ali Mali Sports Management, that is online. I will see if we'll be able to beam that online. Lista Christopherson, founder Lioness Rallies. Douglas Ogeto. I think Douglas is doubling both here, and also the Creatives co-founder and CEO. Ludic Works, esports and gaming company. Right, if you're here as well, it will be wonderful to have you. Safaricom, sports tech. Any representative from Safaricom? If they're here, that will be nice as well. Bobo Yugi, you can join the panel as well to continue past with that particular conversation. So I want to yield the floor now to Ruth Owino, who will start us off with the creative segment. Of course, they will be doubling in with Ludwig as well on the sports segment as well. So kindly feel free to just be swapping and taking spells in exchanging the notes on sports and also the creatives. We save on time as well. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together and make me welcome our moderators. You're not alone.
Good afternoon once again. I take this opportunity to thank again Dr. Shem for putting together this conference, a conference that is very much appreciated by the diaspora. As I stand here to represent my Belgian constituency, I am also very proud to be a Kenyan at this time. Sports is one of those areas that is very well celebrated. We have very many sports personalities. We have seen the achievements that they have made. They make the achievements outside, and it impacts very much onto our country. And we are proud of the works that they do. And while we are here, we want to see how we can partner with these sportsmen back at home. Most of the times what happens when they come abroad, I can clearly say that sometimes we don't even know that they're in the countries where they're performing if it's not well announced, except for the Olympics. But there are plenty of them that do plenty of other sports to the run-ups of the main particular activities that they're supposed to be doing in the countries. We have many of them out there in the music industry, and I can proudly say that recently we had one 13-year-old win a Belgian kids event. We have several other artists that are acting, and it's not only just the running fraternity that we have. And I won't take so much of the time. I will welcome the panelists to introduce themselves, and we take it on from there.
So before Ami comes up and also give his introductory remarks, I'll be remiss if I don't welcome also Martin from the Kenya Film Producers Guild to be part of this particular discussion as well. Kindly put your hands together and make me welcome Martin to join the panel. So as I yield the floor to Ami to just also give his introductory remarks. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ami, affectionately known as the Veggie Man. I am also known as Kenya's organic ambassador. I guess the only musician or artist in the country who promotes sustainable living and organic agriculture. I'm also managing director of ABI Organic Agriculture Limited and the CEO of Truth Fire Studios. And if I can say really, really brief, I know we've been here all day. It's been long. Can I ask everyone to do one favor? One favor. Can we stand up just for 1 second? I want this introduction to be right. Just for 1 minute, please. Oh yeah. Everyone stand up. Please stretch your hands up. Stretch your hands up and say, I love myself. I love myself. And now I want you to do something. I want you to look in the mirror. The mirror is the person next to you. And say, you are amazing. You are amazing. Okay, you can have a seat. We had to do that just so that I want to just let you loosen up a little bit. You see, the thing about myself and my love for music, it's more than just, because music is something we use to preserve arts, preserve culture through arts. Arts and music is used to preserve culture. But even greater than that, it designs the future. And myself, just coming from the Caribbean and having a background in soca, dancehall, and a few genres that have been polluted, I came to Africa, came to Kenya in 2013, 10 years ago. So nijo Kiswahili kidogo. And what I've seen the culture here being eroded with what I call anti-life music. So some of the things we'll touch on while we're going to talk about digitization and we're going to talk about ways of expanding the industry, we also must take a close look at content and the content of what's coming into the country and what the youth are repeating, what they're listening to, and what they're developing. Okay? It's really, really important. So I'm not going to take a long time at this moment because we have a panel discussion here, but just want to say to you that my passion for everything that we do is sustainability. And if we are producing music and content or bringing in music and content that is eroding culture and moving against the basic, I'll give you another example. Africans in the diaspora and at home are the only ethnic group on this planet who degrade their women and their people in public forums and get Grammy Awards. I'll say that again. Africans here in the continent and in the diaspora are the only ethnic group in the world that, literally disrespect their women, promote violence, and speak terribly against their own people and get awarded for it. So we'll talk some more in a bit. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm called Ludwig Aduda. I belong to the mad world of football, which is the most loved sport in the world. I have been in football for quite some time. I've been the Chief Executive Officer of the Football Federation of Kenya. I've been the Chief Executive Officer of the Green Army, those people who know about the Green Army, Gor Mahia Football Club, for the past 7 years or so. And I'm currently the Director of Salient Sports Management Limited, a consultancy firm that deals with issues to do with sports, but with a particular bias to football. We need to look at the opportunities that we can leverage on with respect to investments in sports, and particularly sports technology, through which we can enhance the performance of the professionals in the country. We had expected to have other members, first and foremost, Dr. Ochodo. The renowned coach, Bobo Yugi, is indisposed, so he was unable to be with us here. But we are capable of discussing a few things that probably will also go well to try and ensure that the diaspora are also part and parcel of what we need to do with respect to the development and investment of sports in the country. Thank you very much for now.
I will now invite Mr. Martin of the Kenya Film Production Guild to introduce himself further.
Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Martin Munyo. I'm a filmmaker by profession. I wear several hats in the filmmaking space, but I'm also currently the chair of the Kenya the Producers Guild of Kenya, which we refer to as the PGK. And I also sit on the board of Next Media, which is based in Uganda. One of our flagship brands is NBS, and yeah, and a few others. I'm also the CEO of Dreamcatcher Productions Limited, which is a production company in Nairobi, Kenya, and one of our projects as well, I'm just mentioning the few that can easily come to mind, is the Miss President TV series, which is aired on KTN Prime. We've done 2 seasons so far, and hopefully, if we are blessed, we'll go for a 3rd. So I'm here in my capacity as the chairman of the Producers Guild of Kenya to talk about the digital space and telling our stories. And I hope we'll have more engagement on that. But just to get your creative juices flowing, I can see some colleagues who can relate with me when we go back to the analog era. Mr. Bresson, just raise your hand. And I think he'll understand right away when I say, how many of you, maybe my age mates or roundabout there, judging by my gray hair, can remember going to a photo studio or posing to have a picture taken? And how long did it take before you saw those results? So hold that. Don't give me the answer right away, but hold on to that thought. Number 2, today, using your phone, you're called by someone next door and told, hey, just take a picture of us. And you take like 10, 12, 15 of them, all in one going, bust, pa, 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 pa. Give it back and say, choose the best one. I think I've done, you'll find at least one good one. And I think, again, my age mates can relate. We had either 12 or 26. Was it 24, 26, or 36? There were three versions, 12 snaps, 24, and 36. You had to make your choice. We are around Christmas now, around this area. Most of us would have bought maybe 2 rolls of 36 because the price was prohibitive. And we'll head to Shago with 2 rolls of 36 snaps. And that will tell our family story. Telling stories. Today we're doing it digitally. Just hold that thought. We'll carry on the conversation. Thank you.
Handing over to my co-moderator, Ludwig Duda, to continue with this conversation. Just hold on.
We've forgotten now. Craig,
sorry.
yes.
Yes, just before I hand over to Mr. Duda, we have online Craig Hartkoff, who will take the time to greet us now.
Tech team, if we're ready for Craig, is he online? Tech, if you could indicate so that we can move on with the program. Is he online? 2 minutes? All right. We'll just be biding our time with 2 minutes. In the meantime, we have also our young creative as well. You can come to the podium. Just checked in, and you can come and just give your introductory remarks, then you can join the panel. Let's just hear from you. Take your 2 minutes, please.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. My name is Douglas Ogeto from Ludicworks. We're a video game publishing company telling African stories through the medium of games. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Mine is actually to I guess part of today's session was actually to look at how can diaspora tap into the larger creative industry, right? And maybe by show of hands, how many loved Wakanda, for example? Anyone here who loved Wakanda? No. Another question is, how many would have loved the opportunity to have invested in Wakanda, for example? Yes. So the interesting thing about the creative industry, and if you look at the larger stories, is that there are a lot of, if you look at the African IP is quite rich, where we see international people tapping into the African narrative and actually making quite a huge fortune out of it, of course, which Wakanda is the story. But then the question is, as African diaspora, most of you would, we all grew up listening to Shaka Zulu, Luanda Magere, and the rest. The question is, how can we actually take this IP and actually make it in such a way that it both, one, speaks the true story about Africa, because we all know that Africa is rich in history, of course, rich in minerals, among other things, but the question is who is actually benefiting from this IP. So for us in video games, we know that video games is one of the largest revenue generating, but also employer. We pride ourselves in saying that video games, for example, if you find a company, video games can actually employ at a very minimum 35 young people going up. So we are trying to change the narrative in terms of how can we change the African story one game at a time, where we actually make stories that actually reflect the true story about Africa. So we, for example, the whole idea is that if I ask you again, if I asked you, are you a gamer? Will you say you're a gamer or not a gamer? 50-50. So most of us, by chance, are gamers, but gamers, for example, are classified into three. We have casual gamers, person to tap into the creative industry, in the video games, etc. We as Ludwigworks are working with different creatives across the continent who are building very interesting narratives, and we actually provide an opportunity for the African diaspora to actually invest, because we all know that most of you as African diaspora, you send your money so that you can build, the next safari park, but of course with physical structures, there is always a lifetime in terms of, when this physical will be able to bring return on investment. So we in video games, if you look at most video games, it has a life. The lifetime is endless, and this actually will be able to bring more income. So we are happy to see how we can work with more of you to get that investment, invest into the young people and young minds, and of course this has a ripple effect in terms of not only generating revenues but also creating jobs, and of course we want to change the African narrative. Thank you.
Okay, we have Craig online right now. We don't seem to be having the sound.
If Craig, we can't get your audio, is he talking? There you are.
Talking, yes.
Well, this is the beauty of technology sometimes. What? I mute my mic.
Proceed.
Can you hear me, or is my mic is unmuted? No audio?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll try and be concise given some of the technical issues. I just want to address, I have a very diverse career ranging from business to film, to music, to storytelling, children's books, and I have a love for Africa. And I just want to address and pick up on some of the themes about storytelling, which is that, in my mind, storytelling is the most important technology in the history of civilization. And that we're at the cusp of a new dawn. And what that really means. Rosemary, are you able to hear and see, or?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes, I have a very bad connection. Should I continue and try and be quite brief?
Yes, you can continue.
Yeah, I'd just like to amplify. Yeah, there's a terrible. All right, well, I'm going to continue. I'm not sure if this is coming through, but I want to just give a couple of themes and amplify some of the comments that were just made about the impact of moving from an analog to a digital world. And think of it this way, there's a phrase that is emerging. It's about not having a physical world or a digital world, but how do those two worlds merge? Or what we call here, entering the phygital age, physical plus digital. And there's no more important place for the power of storytelling than Africa. And I can tell you from my direct experience, I have now written 11 children's books, 5 of which have come right out of Africa, books from Kenya, one from the Congo and Rwanda, and one from Zimbabwe. And we are on the cusp of a whole new revolution, which has to do with the introduction of a new technology, which I'm sure everyone is talking about, which is artificial intelligence. And while it raises great challenges and many, many ethical and intellectual property issues, the power of this little device, the iPhone or whatever version, whether it's a smartphone or just something that does basic functions, we have to be able to tell stories on all different formats. Oral, by phone, using social media, and I think that this is going to be the great leveler.
From all the established players, and getting a repeat, but I think the opportunity is we have to learn, and I think this is the great moment, given these new incredibly powerful technologies, to learn how to tell our stories, but then we also have to sell our stories, and that's really the word distribution. And digital distribution, as opposed to analog, the old-fashioned way, is an enormous opportunity to create a vibrant ecosystem for storytelling, which will get the word out and endear people to both the traditional and the modern Africa as we know it. And since I had the great privilege almost 20 years ago of working with Dr. Paula Kahumbu, who has emerged as probably the great, the new Richard Leakey combined with Jane Goodall all rolled into one. And so having worked with Paula, who's done amazing work on the ground, the focus is to teach ourselves both the traditional ways of telling stories and to embrace the new ways of telling stories. And so this combination of the internet plus place, which is all of Africa. Kenya has an amazing depth of resources of stories. And when you combine these together, it is a new moment as powerful as the introduction of the printing press. And artificial intelligence will, if used properly, it's not going to replace humans. We have to learn how to work with artificial intelligence, and that will be an enormous opportunity. And with that, I'm going to leave it that this is a moment for Kenya, for Africa, and the world to embrace storytelling as a great leveler of economic and social justice, as well as a planet that is desperately in need of stories to help navigate this very, very challenging world that we are confronted with. So with that, I'm going to leave it. Rosemary, hopefully you heard at least some of what I said, but I have an echo on this end. So with that, thank you, and I'm honored to be part of this gathering.
Yes, indeed. 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 It is a bit of technology, the best technology, the best storytelling. take us. I think we had invited Ludwig, before we had just the invitation from Craig briefly. You can come and all right, Craig, I think the chair of Kenya Diaspora Alliance additional photos before you leave. Kindly leave.
So Craig, we can't thank you now. Just want to let my colleagues know there is much more. And the fact that we are moved to that we are able to come
Digital, maybe that's where the phygital comes in. We're trying to still make films the conventional way and try to navigate into that space of the digital. It can be quite overwhelming, especially if you are used to thinking in a linear way, to shooting in a linear format, to selling, to going knocking, door to door. But what the digital space has done for most of the old and upcoming artists is you have control over your own creative works of art. You can upload them into platforms personally, while before the record company that engaged you, whether you're with RCA or Sony and whoever it was, they were in charge of doing the uploads. Now you have got guys who have direct channels to Spotify or something. You key in, you've got all these questions you asked, you answer them adequately, supply whatever is required in terms of paperwork, and you upload it by yourself. So it depends on how fast you can create, how fast you can upload, and how fast you can market your content, depending on the followers you have. What I find very interesting right now is that the sensitivities around how many followers one has, how many followers have left, how many have unfollowed, and things like that, to the extent that people can even think of harming themselves, or have actually done them, harmed themselves and committed suicide because of followers unfollowing them. It's a tricky space we are in, but I think the one which, in the context of Kenya, where I am now, we've addressed that, yes, we've got this window, we can reach, here we can reach diaspora, we can sell our stuff, we can create stuff and put it out for 99 cents out there and see how many Kenyans do we have in the diaspora right now? Anyone with the stats? 3 to 4 million, okay. 3 to 4 million times 99 cents US dollar. If you create something that has a buzz, that's quite a number. Okay, take that 3 to 4 million and let's say 50% of them do not have spending capital. They are below age, so you're still left with 2 million. Even if it's 2 million, let's say out of those 2 million, the ones with the disposable income, for the ones who know the realities out there, let's cut that figure to 1 million. 1 million, that's 990,000 US dollars. Translate that to Kenyan shillings, that's how much you can make in one night if you create the right content and put it out at such an affordable price out there. So that's the space we're in, but I almost lost my train of thought, which is the most important thing that we should focus on, now that we know that the possibilities of creating content and putting it out for 99 cents and reaching out to 1 million people in a span of 24 hours, is to secure the IP. The IP is which will be yours for life. That's an asset. It's the same thing as owning 100 acres in Konza here, just around the corner or something, if you have that IP. I think what we don't do is we don't put much emphasis on the IP, protect the IP, because we still have a lot of piracy going on, and see again how you can use that IP to access finance. I think those are the kind of conversations I would like to see carry on as we talk about telling our stories in the digital space and reaching out to the diaspora. Thank you for now.
Good evening once again. We were speaking and telling our story our way. And I think for too many years, us as African people, wherever we are, we have been following whatever is put out there or whatever is promoted. We're quick to follow. When we were natural leaders, we were actually the ones who were supposed to be leading the rest of the world and showing the rest of the world the direction to go in. And why do I say this? I say this because Africa, I mean, sometimes I always go back to agriculture in my expression, being the veggie man, I can't help it. But Africa is the only continent, the only continent that has not completely destroyed almost all of its natural resources and completely, eroded its culture as we see in the US and other places. So what we're saying is that Africa has a unique ability to preserve itself, which it has done for centuries. And we have dynasties in this continent. We literally have dynasties. So now we're in the digital age as we're speaking, where you can get information from here to Australia like that. You can get it done. You can get any information you want to get out there. You can get it done, in the click of a finger. So the question we ask ourselves today is, what story do we want to tell? What story do we want to tell the rest of the world? How are we going to lead the rest of the world? As we heard a gentleman said earlier, he said that every culture across this globe can trace its ancestral heritage back to Africans. So in other words, that means that you are the parents, we are the parents. So it's very seldom that you see the parents following the children. Children normally copy the parents. So I'm saying that to say that as we step into this digital arena and we begin to tell our story, put our music, put our art out there, one, it's very important that we copyright the content, and that whichever channels we're using to distribute that content, that we use reputable channels so that you can, one, have it protected under your name like Mr. Martin just mentioned, but also that you can actually get paid for the story that you tell. And one of the things you have noticed is that people who have a whole bunch of foolishness to say, I'm born in the Caribbean, in Antigua, by the way, so I may speak like a Jamaican, okay? But you find some of the most, ignorant information on social media, guys, they're moving fast. They're literally behind the camera every few minutes saying something crazy or something dumb. So we're encouraging the people who have something of substance, some life-enhancing messages to give to the people that you get in social media, that you tell your story because you actually have something to say. You actually have a story to tell. So we're encouraging our people to utilize these digital platforms. And we're not saying that in the sense of where, everyone today can be an artist if they want to. You see people trending on social media. They said, how did this guy, he's not trending. And most of the time we see something trending. I'll give you an example in the music industry. What you see trending now, you see the guys with the pants all the way down here so you can see the underwear. Literally, that's trending. When what should be trending is that teaching our people again to dress respectably. To respect your African culture once again, to respect your woman, so that the content you're putting out there, we respect our woman. And I'm saying this with my whole heart because I'm seeing the trend from North America where rap music that used to be positive political social music was eroded, and they promoted the artists who promoted the negative content. They gave them record deals. They pushed those who were cursing the woman, those who were promoting violence. They literally supported that. So I'm saying, no, we as Africans, we have to lead. We cannot do what they did. And while we see that culture coming slowly into Africa, we have to reverse this trend. We have to reverse it now so that what we have to say, the future that we want for our children and for our children's children, that we're going to encourage them to put that positive content out there. And the positive content, yes, it can speak about health, food, culture, dress. It can be so many things, the social life. But I ask a question many times, and sometimes I'm tempted to take up my phone and type it when I see this, the crazy content on social media. I almost want to say to these guys, didn't your parents teach you anything? Sometimes you wonder, who raised these people to behave like this? It's like, who are you listening to? So, again, being born in the West, I have seen the anti-life music being promoted. I have seen them push it, and I've seen it now with the digital age. I'm seeing it moving really, really fast, and it's coming into the African continent. So my message to our leaders and our policymakers here in Africa is that we begin to ban some of these negative content that is being pushed through the media, whether television, through the radio. We begin to ban this content, because you cannot allow someone to constantly disrespect your daughters, your mothers, your sisters, your wives. We cannot allow that to be spoken on our stage anymore. We have to stop it. We cannot allow that to continue to circulate in our social media anymore. This is Africa. We have control. So I'm saying take control of this space. Let's take control of it. Let's push to have the policies in place that are going to make sure we have a future. To make sure we have a future. What I see happen in the Caribbean, what I've seen happen in America in the last 50 years I've been on this planet, what I've seen taking place, particularly through media, have literally degraded culture to the point that children in America today don't respect the elders. There's no respect. So I'm not just going to speak to using this digital space. I'm going to speak against abusing that digital space and making sure we're using it so that elders can be respected, so that any song that's promoted, any song that's played, any child can listen to it, the family can listen to it together. Because we have compromised, guys. We have literally compromised, and while we're in a fast-moving era where everything is a click of a finger, we are still, you go to weddings, okay, you go to weddings and you hear the music being played, they said, man, I can't believe they listen to this. You go to a party, what's being played? They said, no. So I'm saying now, let's begin to push policy. Let's begin to push the policy to protect and defend our people. Let's create the Africa we want in this digital space, okay? Thank you.
Good evening once again. Now, we are trying to look at how we can leverage on investments in sports and sports tech to enhance professional performance amongst athletes. And to be precise, we can see how to develop or use that to develop sports in Kenya. I would wish to take football to explain what I'm going to contribute. Now, first and foremost, we need to see how we deal with football as a global unifying factor, and if possible, if we can make use of this unified factor to be brought within the digital identity. Why do I think that is important, or why should we try to give a thought to that? Because when we look at technology, we need to realize that sports is no longer a pastime as it used to be some years back when we were growing. I remember my late father one day, he was a school teacher, and the guy believed that there was nothing in sports, and particularly football then. That anybody who was involved with football had problems climbing the academic ladder. Particularly, they thought that they would use their knees to climb the academic ladder. They had wooden tops. So there's this evening that we came back from training. It was a cardinal rule in my place that 6 o'clock everybody is in. You have taken a shower, and everybody has picked his or her books to start either finishing up your homework or studying to get prepared for the next lesson the following day. So I got hurt. I had to wait for my friends because I couldn't walk home alone. And the match, by the time it was ending, it was some minutes to 7, and they brought me home limping at around 7:30. What happened that day, I think, was more than what is happening in Israel now. But fast forward, we continued to like sports, but his example then was that anybody who was good in football would end up, of course, getting employment, but there were employment in menial positions, you know, like the parastatals, the footballers, to be particular, ended up either in those parastatals as clerks or, you know, porters at Kenya Airways or Kenya Railways or Posta and Kenya Power and the rest. But we find that today, sports is no longer a pastime per se. It is a source of income. And we are seeing an era where we are transitioning from amateur participation in sports to professional participation in sports. Now, if I may divide this probably into 2 or 3, I would start by looking at the possibilities. Those of us who follow what happens in football will realize that there is a sudden interest from the Arab world where the emirs and sheikhs have begun to invest huge, colossal amounts of money in football. That means that they have seen something which many of us would not want to get or have not yet seen. But I would like now to use that particular example to invite those of you or those of us, brothers and sisters, who are out there in the diaspora, that this is also a segment that you can start giving a thought. We currently, as a country, cannot host international football matches in the country because we do not have standardized stadiums. We have left this for the central government and the county governments to be able to do this. But because it is not their core business, they at times come up with structures that are not to the international expected standards. That's why, in as much as across the road, we've got a magnificent structure in the name and style of Kasarani, Moi International Sports Center, it cannot meet the international standards to enable it to host international matches. So this is an area that I believe that those of you who would also wish to invest in this particular area needs to give a look at. For example, there is a gentleman in Uganda who decided to partner with the government to come up with a modern sports complex. They have had an agreement, I think, on build, operate, and transfer. For the next 30 years, he's going to reap his money. But at the same time, he's going to give an opportunity to the budding sports, young sports men and women. those who are interested or are dealing with real estate, when we were growing up, each and every estate that, if I could remember, had designated facilities that were used for sports. In each and every estate, there was a football pitch, there was a hall, an estate hall, where you could have different sporting disciplines, the badmintons, the tennis, badminton, lawn tennis, and table tennis, darts, juas, and all these kind of things. Now, when those activities were vibrant, or those facilities were vibrant, I beg your pardon, we realized that the country produced, or those were the days when this country reigned above the rest within the region in terms of the sports. Kenya, for instance, dominated the hockey tournaments, severally having their national teams, participating in the Olympics. We had boxers. We remember those of age, the late Napunyi. Yeah. We also remember some of the basketballers, in as much as they were not to the standards of NBA, but these were products of the systems that had been put in place. And remember, these were systems that had been put in place by the colonial administration. The second thing I would like to talk about is the fact that if we now look at football, we do realize that there is need to use football for different purposes. We can use football for national cohesion, which is key. We can use football or sports, to encourage matters of nationalism. We can use sports and football to expose the essence of a merit, a discipline, create a healthy nation. We can use football and sports to ensure that we minimize antisocial behavior amongst the youth or the teens, reduce cases of drug and substance abuse, the issues of prostitution, unwanted early pregnancies, crime. And in the morning, I believe there was one of, the CS who did mention something about mental health. It is important that we can also use sports to deal with some of these issues that we are talking about. Now, as members of the diaspora community, you also have remittances back at home. But if we enhance sports, if we enhance football, if we enhance athletics, we realize that there are remittances in terms of millions, or if not billions. I believe, and I might be corrected, that the status of Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County has been enhanced by the proceeds of the athletes who apparently come from that area. Dibal, you are saying yes?
Yes, I'm saying yes, and I'm also saying, yeah, we should be winding up now.
Okay, thank you.
So that we don't do an overkill, at least there's tomorrow.
Lastly,
so, yes.
we can talk about this for ages, but it is important to also look at the possibility of investing in the different apps that will enhance the performance of sportsmen and women, as that is also lacking in the country. If it was for time, we could talk a lot more about this issue. Thank you for now.
I would like to thank the panelists for their contributions. And to wind up, it is indeed true that when we tell negative stories about ourselves, anybody else will take us in the negative perspective. So it is our duty to be able to sell ourselves in a positive manner in all areas and with everyone that we interact with. It is important that the children we raise and are in these areas of sports are given the chance to grow in these sports and mostly to be supported by their parents and their communities where they are coming from. A lot of the sports activities are left to the children on their own. I'm sure some parents don't even know what their children do at school and what their potentials are. It is important. And I will also mention something that was mentioned by Mr. Martin on the issue of the analog time and the time now. It has created a space of no patience because we want the results like yesterday. So probably we can go back a little bit and look at how we are handling these issues in a more healthy manner so that we can also embrace the perspective of patience. Mr. Ami also talked about the leadership. We should claim back that leadership. A lot of things are invented by Africans, and I would say maybe blacks, and it runs because we don't patent these things. We leave these things to just go just like that. So we need to take a little bit of time and responsibilities and take up the ownership of the things that we put out. Content creativity is very, very good, but how do we watch the children who are underage and are spending so much time on social media? Do we just leave them in their rooms to do whatever they want? Or we as parents or the community should be able to maybe check the times and the hours that they use on social media and the contents that they post. I may not fit in the shoes of Dr. Mutua, but I think we do believe, each one of us, that our moral obligation is to take care of each other and to watch the mental space, which is now a crisis, and it's actually affecting more children than adults. And if we look into these areas, the diaspora is quite concerned about the children that are not being accepted back at home. It's nice to be in two places, just like when you're living in Nairobi and you have your ushago. When you go there, you get pampered by your grandmother, you come back to Nairobi, your mom tries to put you back in order again. It's the same way these children would like to have their abroad life and at the same time be able to enjoy their African heritage. And trust me, out there, the children born there know their roots very well because their parents really instill it on them, and it would be great if they are accepted back at home in the same measure as the parents are trying to do. I will wind up on that. There are many things I could have spoken on I could have summarized on what the moderators have said, issues of investing in sports and investing in establishments that are up to standard. The footballers are killed. The athletic world also is very, very rich. Kenya should be able to tap into that. I will wind up with that, and thank you all for being in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Even as you were just talking about underage, I think Martin had something pressing regarding that particular issue, just briefly, in light of walkinism that we are being bombarded with from the West. Kindly, briefly.
Yes, thank you very much, Ruth, for touching on that particular topic of underage and how they consume media in this digital age. Of course, the topic tonight is telling our stories in the digital space. What I came to figure out through trial and error, because I think parenting, there's no one set book or copy-paste set of guides that you can use for parenting. It's all trial and error. Even if you have many kids, you find each kid has a different approach. And the one I found that worked best was, if you can't beat them, join them. So instead of stopping them from using their mobiles or gadgets and taking them, blocking them, putting passwords and all those manner of things, see how you can engage with your children on the topical issues of the day that you know are controversial, and they might get misguided and get the wrong type of advice from TikTok or their peers and all that. So every week, I think as a parent, it's up to us to give that guidance, talk to them, address those topics which you feel are controversial, but they'll eventually open up to you and feel that you're a person they can talk to. And that way, I think, as parents, will protect them in a better way rather than thinking we're protecting them by snatching the gadgets and all. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. Ludwig, thank you for good moderation. Emmy, I want to thank you so much. Ruth as well, thank you for the wonderful moderation. You've co-moderated with Ludwig as well. And Martin, thank you for the contribution. And for you, you have been amazingly, amazingly patient. Looking at the time, and you're still here. Thank you so much. I know as a moderator, I've done you injustice, especially on the time. But kindly, I hope tomorrow we'll improve, and we endeavor to improve on this as well, given that we had a lot of things that were crammed into our program today. But I want to thank you so much. Nonetheless, you're still with us, even online. Thank you so much for our audience as well, who have been following today's first day of the convention that we are going through until the 8th. This will be on Friday. So I know you're tired. And I know you are really longing maybe to have a particular shower and just maybe relax in your bed and take dinner, but we want to thank you so much. At this point, I want to not even call the chair to come and close the program. I close it officially. And we hope tomorrow we continue a pace with the conversation. But for our panelists, thank you so much. I want just to show you off. They're saying a group photo, right? So I know you're tired, so you can just hold your smiles for the photo as well, so that it doesn't look like, hey, you guys were really beaten at the end of a day. Where were you? Oh, this conference was that boring? No, it wasn't. It is because you are also tired. So to immortalize the moment, solemnize it, we want just to capture that. Yes, and I'm being reminded there is a cup of tea to refresh you this evening, to rejuvenate you. Thank you so much. At the end of the day, what do we say? Thank you to you for the first day of KDA convention, the 10th anniversary. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being amazingly patient. Let's do this tomorrow, and we will at 8:30 in the morning. As we begin in the morning, I'll make sure